Hello. This episode is called How I Am a Piano Teacher, even though my personality type clearly doesn't fit most systems. I grew up on this series, Bastion, and some other ones by a different Bastion, I think. And then also grew up on, or didn't grow up on, but used my whole time teaching since 2006, I think, is when I first taught piano lessons. Or if you count a few that I did in the basement of a school, Catherine Cook's school, I did a couple in 2002 or 3. I don't remember. I think 2. And that's how old I am. But those ones were weird because I felt so young and so green and wasn't in teacher mode. I had been in permanent student mode and then was just like, yeah, I guess I can try to pass on what I know. And I would just follow the books. And I was pretty thorough, but I don't think I had very many systems for how to convince people to try to do this. I mean, this process took me 15 years. And how do you take someone who's never played anything before and try to convince them to go down the path? I mean, I'd say that's the hardest part of piano teaching, is how do you help people have a consistent amount of motivation or discipline for an entire childhood? I don't think you can convince that. It's a parental structure thing, a home structure thing. It's an internal drive of the child thing. That's why not everybody is meant to take piano for more than a few years. And if you want to take it your whole childhood just because you like what you gain from working with your teacher or from studying and you don't mind the slower pace, then I'm actually a great teacher for you, because I don't push against people's natural nature most of the time. I will encourage past people's natural nature all the time, but I don't use effort. To me, that feels like taking a pair of pliers and like yanking. It usually creates shame at like a flower. Bloom, bloom, bloom. But like on any given song that a child is working on, I'd rather slow it down, make it better. Figure out, why are they not getting this? Where's the lack of motivation? What's going on in their brain that's making them resist this process? And a lot of times it's really just about the structure or the discipline being off. Like, it's not always some sort of emotional, psychological thing. Sometimes they just literally need to be told, you have to go sit down for 30 minutes, period. It's not an option. So, or at least that's what I had. I'm not saying that is the only thing that works, but it works really well to at least get consistent progress. However, in this day and age of TikTok viral videos and all that kind of stuff, like, why get that level of skill if you can instead use the time with me as your creativity coach, as your musical mentor? Then I can take you through songbooks and I can figure out what makes you tick. And through the process of us working together, I can assign you songs off of YouTube or these videos that exist. Like, there are so many different methods to teach yourself, or I can suggest that you try this method plus work with me, and I'll work with people on ultimateguitar.com. I'll work with people on all those YouTube videos that are like synesthesia. I'll do any method that I can think of to help you get the skills that I have, including take you through 10 years plus of books, So, it's a tricky thing, because most people don't want to take the slow and systematic approach of, it's not just that it's slow, it's 10 years and 30 minutes of practice every day to get the level of skills that I got through this means. Like, you can also get the level of skills that I got through other really bizarre, really intense means, I imagine. Just like way more than 30 minutes a day in bursts. Like, I had a student who didn't practice for like 5 years. He was one of my, no offense, Jonathan, one of my worst practicers back when I lived in Chicago. And then out of the blue, he got a passion for bend folds. And he just became like my best practicer overnight. He got obsessed, and he saw it as a challenge, and he wanted to play as good as bend folds. And yeah, within a year, he was like studying to get into interlocking, and he leveled up by like 5 levels within that short burst of a time. So it's weird. It's like, for me, watching students like that is what taught me that you kind of have to have the passion there. Without the passion there, it's very hard to convince someone to work this hard. So, anyway, so I'm going to just take you through. So I tend to have my students do Hannon. This is Hannon number 1. And then the more advanced you get, oh, you can't see my fingers. And the more advanced you get, then we might do other Hannons. This is Hannon 6. It's a little different pattern. There's Hannon 2, Hannon 9. Quite a few that I like better than others. Hannon 10. And then there's Hannon 21. That's the one my teacher that helped me get into a music conservatory in my junior and senior years. She had me doing this one. These are a little hard to play on a cheap keyboard. You'd think it'd be easier that the keys go down easier, but it's not. You have to control it. Control it more. Because really, I can do it faster than that on a real piano, actually. And then it goes down. But on this keyboard, it's sounding really junky because the keys move too fast and there's no resistance. Anyway, so, but on a real piano, there's the right amount of resistance and it balances. Anyway, that kind of hurt. I also have lots of injuries, lots of tendonitis. I've listened to recordings of me back when I was at the music conservatory, and I actually sounded more advanced than I do now when it comes to virtuosity. But when it comes to like fluidity in the keys, understand keys as well back then as I do now. So the music conservatory helped immensely with that, but what helped even more with that was I had about, I want to say like 30 piano jobs after college and after grad school. So somewhere in New York City, one of them paid like $25 an hour for me to be handed sheet music I'd never seen before at the super advanced level by a singer, and a not professional singer, I might add. And I had to play it perfectly on the first try so that the teacher could focus on the singer. And then and that's called sight reading. And then not only did I have to be able to play the music that I was seeing for the first time perfectly on the first try, and it was very advanced. 6 flats and super epic and all these like kind of floppy movements. In addition to that, sometimes the singer would walk in and say, "Hey, I want you to play this in C flat major instead of G flat major." So then I had to be able to do what's called transposing. You had to be able to just visualize the other key. I mean, it was almost impossible. I still to this day don't know how some people are as good at it as they are. I only got yelled at in that class maybe twice. I remember feeling like just devastated. I remember feeling this sense of like, I got to this insanely high level and you are an amateur 50-year-old vocalist who's never sung in front of anyone before, and you're yelling at me that I'm not playing this perfectly for you, like I'm some sort of music robot. I remember being humiliated and devastated and just like I remember feeling a mixture of I want to get better at this and I want to quit this and never do this again. And I did get better over the years at it, but it thankfully, I think then after I moved to Chicago, I had like 3 or 4 more jobs like that in New York City when I was there for grad school. But thankfully no more transposing, just some sight reading and creating cabaret shows. And I was working with people who had Broadway theaters, and they liked me, and Josie Abity was one in particular. She owned or ran Circle in the Square Theater, and she and Sheila Ray was the one who found me in a summer in Chicago, and through a big thing at Theater Building Chicago, and then she saw I was living in New York, and then she kind of brought me under her wing, and I did a lot of work with her, and she's just an absolutely lovely human being all around. And I think she wanted me to kind of rub elbows with a lot of people who'd been doing that work for a long time, and I did. So Josie Avity was one of them. And, so in addition to being in grad school writing a musical, I was doing all this extra side work. I was a music director for an Off-Broadway show on 45th Street called Sex the Musical, which is ironic then that's what my trauma healing was about, that when I was that much younger, I was able to just turn off the switch that was offended by all of these, comedic songs that were like the equivalent of excuse my language, a dick pic. It was disgusting, and I hated that show in terms of the content, but, we also just all did it. I worked with 4 actors who were all incredible, 2 women, 2 men. One of the men went on to be, the very next year, went on to be Roger on Broadway, for Rent on Broadway, and then he stayed on Broadway. He did a ton of things, Sebastian Arcellis, and then he went on to be Buddy the Elf in Elf the Musical, which that was incredible. Very happy for him. He reminds me a little of Andy Samberg in hindsight, which is interesting. Anyway, he was the nicest person too. So I had all these experiences in New York City, accompanying and playing piano for all of these, and in my grad school too. I was one of the 4 or 5 people who could sight read people's work and play piano for them, and that was super intense as well. And then I moved to Chicago permanently after having kind of gone back and forth. I grew up about an hour and a half north of Chicago, just over the border in Wisconsin. And when I then moved to Chicago, continued doing that kind of work back at Theater Building where I had been, but also a bunch of other theaters, and was a music director from kids theaters too. Did tons of music directing. And long story short, it's an underpaying gig that requires an insanely high level of skill, and it's episodic. So it wasn't a full-time job, so I couldn't guarantee that I could pay my rent if I had stayed a music director. I didn't need the transposing skills once I got to Chicago. They didn't act like that. There was none of that, diva energy, like you have to be able to not only sight read, play a song you've never seen before perfectly, but there was none of the not only was there less of the need for sight reading there, but there was also way less of the sort of attitude, no offense, New York City, about if somebody could sight read and transpose by 2, 3, 4, 5 keys at the same time. And sometimes in succession. They'd hand you the music and be like, play it 2 steps down. I don't think they ever said 2 steps down. They often didn't even speak music theory language. And then, and if you didn't do it right, or if they just didn't like it, they'd be like, actually, I would prefer it in F. Actually, I would prefer it a little lower. Sometimes they would just say a little higher. I just need this a little higher. And then if you picked a key, they'd be like, no, that's not good. Can you do it a little lower? So you're like sight reading and transposing at the same time and changing key. And I was able to do all of that. So I have an insanely high level of training for what I've ended up doing with my life. And 9/11 hit. I was like an atheist. I was all over the place. Started going to church again. I was I feel like my life has been a giant pause button while doing other things. Like I sabotaged my own ambition in so many ways to kind of press stop and put the brakes on this sort of there were a lot of things that I put the brakes on in around 2004, 5. But I'm not anti-ambition. I love the ambitions of my youth. They're very cute. The ambitions of my youth were like, making little radio stations with my brother, making little musicals in 8th grade. I always wanted to be the best at school, but not because I wanted you to be bad. It was just because I enjoyed challenging myself. Like if a teacher said, write a musical, I wrote a musical. And I acted it out for my peers and probably didn't help my social life. But here I was, 8th grade or 7th grade, jumping around on stage singing We Are Little Bunnies. And we're off to go to Rabbit Land. And I had a whole cassette tape that had all the background music, and I acted the whole thing out. And like, what? I also liked just doing anything to a high level. Like I liked making my tooth fairy pillow. I liked making dioramas with a cheetah in them. I liked being, I liked doing a really good job and doing really good work. That was enjoyable for me. So, fast forward, all this trauma pile later of, and I think when I was younger I knew how to sweep the trauma under the rug. But it was weird because then I started writing songs in 2004, 2005 where I was trying to like rip the Band-Aid off and like shine a light on some things. And I even wrote a song called Elephant Rug that was all about like, we're not going to just sweep these things under the rug. We're going to confront things. And it felt like kind of blowing up things instead of like a slow reveal. It felt like a yanking off of things. And the way people can be ahead of their time poetically or artistically, I think they can also be ahead of their time emotionally or spiritually. And so in a lot of ways I was ahead of my own soul's time. Like I was going crazy from the amount of change and evolution I was trying to, because to switch from an ambitious person who was going to be ambitious by just playing piano for musicals, and I don't mean to say I just mean that had a very thing similar to school. Here's the thing we want you to do, now you do it. But then when I became like a piano teacher just to pay the bills in a consistent way, which again was in 2006 or so, and that was a slow shift over. First I did a touring children's theater for a couple of years, 2004, 2005. And I did do like a 6-month stint at a gymboree playing music, but that was kind of a bust because that's not really like doing a music job. But I was trying to be successful in a music job. It's just that the music jobs where I would have been the most suited were episodic, and I would have been unemployed for periods. I actually was even offered an internship at the Goodman Theater because I also have a theater degree in dramaturgy, and I would have been there for 6 months, but they only would have paid me like $200. But that probably would have led to high-level theater jobs. But these are all, they're not high enough paying, And actors deal with this kind of challenge all the time. So, enter piano teaching. Enter trying to replicate my childhood for kids. I have learned that most kids aren't wired like me. Most kids don't want to make the best diorama. Most kids don't want to write a whole musical by themselves. They don't even think to. And so it's been a strange shifting of expectations of both myself and others. I can't inspire you all to be as inspired as I am. I try. I over-try. But I can take you through the books, and I can tell you what works and what doesn't, and I can make up so many systems. I've made up so many systems. So like I said, I do hand in to warm up for the dexterity, and then I take people through all their scales. We do all 12 scales. We only do major scales because I teach people where the minor scales come from, which is just take the same major scales and start on the 6th note. Now you got the minor scale. Even if you're just doing it like that, the whole point of minor is that to the level that I teach to, I'm not trying to create a bunch of little mini Beethovens or world touring classical pianists who are, I would recommend you out if you were with me for 5 years and I could tell you wanted to go like on a super high level classical track, which I'm not even seeing in the world anymore, at least not in my students. But if I saw that, I would probably recommend you to. I've known some of those teachers. They're like piano faculty at colleges, like music colleges. Anyway, so I take people through, I teach people the circle of fifths. So after we learn C major, I show people how to learn G next. It's like whatever the scale starts on in your thumb. We go through all the sharp keys first, then you push your pinky down 5 notes up. That's the name of the next scale. And I show people where that comes from. And so look, we had an F sharp. And I teach about whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. That's the measurements of a scale. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And then push your thumb down on the G, because that's the 2nd scale. And then push your pinky down where you are. That's on the D. That's the 3rd scale you learn. And that, the sharp that you just had, the F sharp, which was the 7th sharp. And so you know now that it's in the 7th spot and that it's the F sharp. Now when you go to D, you're going to have 2 sharps. You're going to still have the F sharp, which now is in the 3rd spot, and you have to fill in a sharp in the 7th spot. So all the scales are cumulative. they're adding building blocks. They're not all unrelated to each other like how I was kind of taught them, which is just, here's a book of scales, learn this. And I never understood how do these things fit together, but you can learn. I teach all the way up to B major that way. So then D had a sharp in the 3rd spot and the 7th spot, and it's F and C. And now when you go up by a 5th from D to A, now you know that the next scale is going to have 3 sharps, not 2. It's going to have 3 now, but you know it has to be, one of the things will overlap. There has to be a sharp in the 3rd spot and the 7th spot, and there has to be an F and a C as sharps, F sharp and C sharp. And one of those overlaps, which is the C sharp. The C sharp's on the 3rd spot. And then by filling in those details, basically you look at it as the F sharp's floating. So now as I play the A major scale, I have the 3rd spot, the 7th spot, and where'd the F sharp go? It's like, where's Waldo? So here's A major. You go A, B, C sharp, and then D, E, and then F sharp moved to the 6th spot. 6, and then here's 7. And I'm counting by what are called scale degrees. So scale degrees is just a way of saying do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Instead of that, you say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And if you've ever seen The Sound of Music, it's that. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. That was very pitchy. I'm not trying to be a YouTube piano teacher. I'm just showing you how I teach. So I take them through all of those. Sometimes, most times, I simultaneously take them through what I now call, thanks to my student Kieran, called it a chord scale. But it's just, after I teach the C major scale, I teach a C chord, or a C major chord, and then I show them that you can play a scale using chords. And we call that a chord scale now. Thank you, Kieran. The books just call it like chords in the key of C, which is also accurate. So that creates a C chord, and this is the foundation of pop music as well. So you've got a C major chord, then you've got a D minor chord, because the 2nd chord is always minor. The combination of the 6th note of the scale, you're pushing every other note. So you're pushing like thumb, not that one. Middle, not that one. Pinky. So you're pushing like that, but you're not really like floating the other fingers up. But, you know, you got, and you're just pushing those same thumb, middle, pinky on all of them. And this is always going to create a major chord or a happy sounding chord, then a minor chord or a sad sounding chord, another minor chord, sad sounding chord, a major chord, happy chord, another happy chord. And these also have numbers. This is the 5 chord. It's also the 5th chord I've played. So 1 chord, 2 chord, 3 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord, 6 chord, blah, 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 7. And then you can also add the word major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, major. So you can play that in slow motion, and there you go. There's all the music theory that I'm constantly teaching my students. So major 1 chord in the key of C is a C major chord. Minor 2 chord in the key of C is a D minor chord, because you name it by its lowest note, the note under your right hand thumb. Minor 3, E minor chord. Major 4, F major chord. Major 5, G major chord. Minor 6, A minor chord. I started thinking about other things, sorry. Lost my focus. Diminished chord. So you hear how that one sounds kind of spooky. Yep. But it's a 7 chord, so you got a B diminished chord. And then you're back to 1. Or you can call it 8, but it's really just the 1 chord again, which is, just letting you say it, it's a C major chord. So all of pop music comes from that. So now all I'm doing is just playing those shapes that we just played. This is my entire method. You can give me money if you would like. I just don't think I'm ever going to make a YouTube channel where I like formally normalize this. I don't think that's who I am. And everyone that I've ever met has always said, just don't give it away. Just don't give it away. Have people pay you for it. Put it in some formal system where people can like go and buy it as a class. And it's like, who even knows who I am? Who will pay for it as a class? How do I get the lighting? How do I get myself to be serious enough to create an entire system? Like, if you would like to come in as my producer and create a system with me, like, let's do it. Anyway, but I've discovered over 10 years of playing music of teaching playing music. I've been playing for like 30 or more. Anyway, thumb, middle pinky in the right hand, and then just pinky thumb in the left hand. This is the Jessica Fogel method for pop. You don't even have to add, but if you want to add the fancy things, this is my other trade secret, it's a lot of wiggling thumbs. So you're playing that, you're leaving out the middle finger in the left hand, and you're wiggling extra thumbs. When I find myself C major, G major, blah blah, A minor and F chord, C major and G major, F, E minor, D minor, C. That's just a fake little version. Let it be, A minor, let it be, E minor, F, back to C, C, G, F, E, D, C, and then I think I've done I don't remember the ending I've done. I don't know, whatever. Oh yeah. This one doesn't follow the thing. It does, like I could explain it to you. This is an F chord, it's just in second inversion. And then this is a C chord over E, D minor, but only part of it, and then C, and then B flat major, which is an anomaly in the key. You can always use anomalies inside of any key, which anomaly just means one that's not normally in the chord scale, and in this case, it's a B flat chord. So, F chord essentially, F chord, C over E, D minor, C, B flat, A minor, G, F, C. And that's that fancy part. But I tell people don't worry about certain details. So I think the reason a lot of my students don't like learning off those YouTube synesthesia things, those things that are they actually make you feel really guilty. Like, why can't I sound so amazing if I have these resources right here and I'm not doing them? It's like, no, this is why you still pay a teacher, even with the world being what it is. If you want to pay me every week to meet with me, I save time in my schedule to explain to you anything you ever want to know, any question you ever have. And even this video is probably more helpful to some people than all the millions of like supposedly easy tutorials, because a tutorial is oftentimes not talking about systems. This is why teachers are important. I think in systems because I spent 15 to 20 years learning, and I already did the work for you to reduce things to a system. And that's why teachers at the school level too, like at a school K through 12, teachers give kids these, or adults, anyone who's learning, an aha moment, because they're reducing complex, disparate elements to you. They're reducing the complex, disparate elements to a simplified, unified, singular way to think about something. Like a system. They're creating a system for you. This is why I pay my bill. This is why I'm a moderate politically. I understand that the world is not just a billion in billions of individuals. That doesn't make sense. There's nothing to follow. There's nothing to believe in. So the world is systems. It's systems that are organizations that care for disadvantaged people, and then it's also systems where some of them are even corrupt, but at least it's getting electricity to my house, or it's getting, my mail or something. I'm not even picking actually corrupt systems. What I'm trying to say is some people get angry all the time about, for instance, oil. Like, this is so controversial. Why am I putting this inside of my video? I'm saying that, I use a car right now. And until somebody figures out a new system to replace the old systems that involve pipelines and oil and things that I don't believe in corrupting this earth, but I do believe in driving my car to places. So it's like, people, we need leaders in any category. Environmental, energy, music, the arts. We need leaders. Anything that has a lot of training and understanding behind it. Administrators. We need people to lead and create systems. So I don't believe in anarchy or anti-government or anti-everything because I don't have the means or the ability. I don't already know how to farm. I don't know anything. So currently we live getting too off topic. Not that I'm forcing myself onto a topic for this. I'm not trying to be a YouTube teacher. I'm trying to show you how I teach because I think it's fun. And I'm stalling because I had a hole in my schedule. Anyway, and I'm at my boyfriend's parents' house, and it's fun to randomly do a YouTube video. Anyway, my point is reducing things to a system for you. And in other words, to go back to my usual anti-shame kind of stuff that I normally talk about, don't feel bad if you've tried to teach yourself online and you can't figure it out and you can't suddenly play as good as me. I went to, I had 2 different piano teachers over the course of 10 years, private, one-on-one, taking me through hundreds probably of songs, thousands of songs, maybe 100 books. Probably not 100, but lots of these books. These are just the easy ones. Telling me what I did wrong. Telling me how to learn it better. Not always in the best ways, but I don't teach in the best ways either. I try. So, there's nothing wrong with you if you can't learn independently without a teacher online just because the resources are there. It's a myth of our current culture that we should all be independent. That makes no sense. Specialists are out there. Utilize them and pay them if you would like. Now, if you don't like working with somebody, then those resources are there for you, and that's great. And the self-starters will do well with that. I love that. But there are also human beings like me out there willing to carve out blocks of time for you on a weekly or bi-weekly basis in all kinds of subjects, and, happy to keep taking your questions and helping. So, anyway, it's turned into more of like an emotional labor mixed with actual labor mixed with intellectual labor kind of ramble. Anyway, so that's what I do is I take my students through all the keys. I take them through scales, chord scales. I teach the foundations of pop music. And then on top of that, we also, I'll write out, I'll show you a bunch of these. I'll write out songs for people off of YouTube. And the next step is books. So then we would move on to songs. A lot of my students are in a book, so we'll do at least one lesson book song. And then some of my students are not in books at all, and I literally hand write for them these really intense songs off of the internet. So this is a really beautiful one. Play you a little bit of it. I don't really play this, I just wrote it out for him. Nope. Goes on and on. So I listened to it on YouTube, wrote it out. Sometimes I'll find sheet music and I'll write it out in these kind of letters for my students who don't read sheet music. And then people who have barely any lessons can suddenly play a song like that if they have the right kind of discipline or ambition to learn them. Here's one off of anime. It's the intro from Day and Night. My student Kieran, she's so cute. Oh, the one who made up chord scale. And she's not very advanced, and so it's great that she can listen to those very advanced songs, and then we can write something out for her that's at her level. Or I always say we, so they feel inclusive with me, but I'm the one writing it out. But anyway, what else? Oh, I did rewrite the stars for my niece. No, hers is here. Rewrite the stars, blah, 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 blah. She has the all I want is to fly with you. I can't sing like that. Well, I could if I wanted, but I'm in my house, or in their house. I don't want to rock out right now. Fall with you, so just give me all of you. Anyway, it's very cute, and there's a fancy little fill. But she's only been taking piano for a couple years. That's not really how it goes. Sorry, I got distracted. Yeah, that's the middle part. You think it's easy? You think I don't want to run to you? not had to. She was excited to perform that today at school. Anyway, okay, so that's Brooklyn. I wrote out the Pokemon theme song for my nephew Sully. I wrote out Green Hill Zone from Sonic for my nephew Sawyer. Nope. I cut off the bottom note. I sent him the original. I don't know if it knows where. Anyway. Let's see. I don't know if this is interesting to you, but I love this. Like, this has been like such a delight the last few years. Really, really owning this unique approach that I'm doing. I should show you the sheets. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to not show you the sheets, but these are songs I don't know at all. But we just, during the lesson, during the 30 to 45 minute lesson, I just charge like $1 a minute, basically. During the lesson, we go online and I'll look up anything for anyone. I don't care. And I have perfect pitch, and I have like 20 years of conservatory and performance training and all of that, you know. Like I said, I could play all these things really advanced on, you know, for all these New York City people. And instead, I'm applying my talents to the boy and girl next door. Like, I will just like, this one's for my student Caden. It's a Marshmallow song. Let's see if I even know it. But I wrote it out for him. Like, and he is like in his first month of lessons, but he's just very talented and very eager. And so, you know, this is what we're doing. I think it's faster or slower than this. So like, that's my job. So like, go on YouTube with kids and adults, or go on ultimateguitar.com and talk about chord progressions and talk about all kinds of things, and really try to like help people. Oh my gosh, this is a Duncan Lawrence song. Okay, I need to stop because I have another lesson really soon. That's a really cool one. Arcade to build a home. That's a really good one I'm working on with my student Sophia. Should pull it out. Okay, this is the last one. Oh my gosh, but there's Imperial March and Holy by Justin Bieber. Okay, that's all the students of mine. So of my 30 students, that's how many students are in the midst of a YouTube song right now. And then I have a huge folder of all the other ones, and 10 plus years of ones that I've written out for students in their notebooks that I don't even have a copy of the arrangements that I made. So like, this is an arrangement of To Build a Home, but I think this is pretty close to the original. So let's see. No, wait, it's lower, sorry. That's the one thing that's always tough with these, because it just looks like letters, you know, so I just have to kind of help people find. I usually put off to the side, like, where it is oriented around a middle C and whatnot, but okay. I'm almost out of time, so I'm playing these kind of fast, just to give you an example of how I teach, just for fun. I don't know why, really. I'm not really trying to promote for new students because I don't even have room in my schedule. I have room for like maybe 5, but I do have, not even, well, maybe. But I also do have a few students who will be graduating. So by the time you see this, maybe if you need lessons, I'm here. Just send me a message. I don't know this song at all, but I wrote it out for my student. And that part repeats 3 times, and so I just write that, and then this part goes. then it goes to this really cool part. So I put like there were 4 repeats and then I just put like dust. That's how it ends. So these are often kind of sloppy, but the main reason they're sloppy is because I'm cramming them in during a lesson. So I just always make sure that they're written out in a way that my student can understand, and if not, we kind of tweak them and edit them. But you know, their parents are paying me by the minute, or I mean, I don't really charge by the minute. It's either 30 or 45 minutes like a normal lesson. So. And that is my video on why you should follow your own path, because otherwise I know somebody who is a music director on Broadway in New York City. She's living the life path that maybe I would have lived, but I wouldn't have been Jessica and the Rainbow. I wouldn't have written, I think me and Brian calculated I probably have like 20 hours of music you could listen to on my Bandcamp right now. I'm pretty proud of all of it, even though a lot of it's lo-fi. I still like, proud's the wrong word, I hate that word. I enjoy all of it. Some of it's more lo-fi than others, but I love all of the songs, or I at least like them. That's like 20 hours of music you can listen to online that if I was doing the Broadway music director path, I definitely wouldn't have created. And if you look at me in childhood, back before I understood what ambition even was, my life in music was just an act of love. It was just turning on a beat, making up songs. Oh baby, don't you know I love you so. Oh baby. Oh yeah, that's about it. Oh wait. Okay. Take 2. Oh baby, don't you know I love you so. Oh baby, don't you know. That's a little more like, oh baby, don't you know I love you so. That's just a chord scale, by the way. A C chord, a G chord, and an F chord. Anyway. But when I was a kid, I had a little Casio that's in this room somewhere. Anyway, but you would just push one button, and that would be like, you know, and that created all the beats for you. Anyway, I have to go because Greta's about to call me. Goodbye. Hope you've enjoyed that. Hope you will enjoy that in the random future time. Okay, whatever. Bye.